It's good to see you. The last time I was here, a storm blew through Coldwater and took the electricity out. Do y'all remember that? But we kept on going, didn't we? It's good to see you. You doing okay? You look good. Y'all sing. That was really, y'all good. Thank you. So I have a few things I need to say before I start, meandering about this morning. I have to say a big thank you to Rick. He is a really fabulous priest, y'all. And thank you for your good work here, for your energy and enthusiasm and love of Christ and the gospel and the good news, and for your inspirational messages and for your loving care of these people. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And to Christy, you're going straight to heaven. Spouses of clergy go straight to heaven. And Sam, too. They get to go right along. PKs, poor PKs, preacher kids, And I also have to say a big shout out to my buddy Dave back here, who keeps me out of trouble, which isn't easy, is it, Dave? Yeah, he's a nice man. He's not going to say how much trouble he's kept me out of. And to my good friend Ann, also, who keeps me a bit out of trouble. They are on the standing committee of the diocese, and I can't thank them enough for their service to the diocese and their care and love of me. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I said to the vestry last night, vestry folks, raise your hand. Yes, you're going straight to heaven, too. Serving on vestry isn't always easy, but thank you. We had a nice dinner last night, a really, really lovely gathering. And I said to the vestry last night that now I'm in my 7th year as your bishop, that I've learned that there is an equation, I call it Wayne's equation for church vitality. Maybe I should write a book about it. Hey, Barb. And that is that we can see that congregations are vital and vibrant and thriving when they have a couple of things, and not in any order, but one is a healthy, consistently present, self-differentiated clergy person who understands that their job is to love and care, but also empower the second part, which is a laity who has capacity to get stuff done, right? Leadership capacity, empowered to do whatever it is that God's calling. This is your church. It's not the clergy's church. It's your church. So what is it you want to make this church do and be, and how do you want to make it sing out in the world? That is your calling. And so that plus that equals vitality and viability. And you, my friends, are my example to the rest of the diocese of what that looks like. And I learned that from you, because Coldwater is a really nice town. It's a really nice town, and it's a nice community, but there's a lot of nice communities like Coldwater in Michigan. I'm not saying that y'all, just normal or anything, but, there's a lot of nice communities. But there's not a lot of St. Mark's in those same communities. So what is it about y'all, right? Because I'm from Kentucky, What is it about y'all that makes a difference? Healthy clergy, self-differentiated, empowered laity who can do stuff. Vitality and viability. You're the example. So thank you. And I love the fence. I took a picture. It'll be on Facebook later. Right? Because there's no reason why every one of our churches shouldn't be hanging stuff up to give stuff away, because that's what we're all about anyway, is what do we give away for the good of the community. So thank you for that. A lovely concert last night. That was fun. It was nice to see the community using this space, and that you were willing to share and open it freely so that the community can see the beauty of this place and experience lovely music. So y'all doing okay? I'm real happy about y'all. This is a good place. I'm glad to be here. So, okay, should I start preaching now? Nah, let's have a conversation. So, you may know, you may not know, that as of, October 19th, I think, I am also the Bishop of Eastern Michigan, too. I know it. I'm a glutton for punishment. I got in the car and I was driving back from Saginaw Saturday afternoon, and, I was sitting there thinking, oh, this is great. What in the hell did I just do? what was I thinking? Anyway, so this is a big shift for us and for the Diocese of Eastern Michigan. And just to kind of fill you in on what this looks like, there's a lot of knowns and there's a lot of unknowns. Some of the things that we know are these. I'm 100% bishop in each diocese. It's not a 50-50 proposition. It is 100%, and I will be wherever I need to be in these two geographies as the Spirit needs me and the people need me to be there, right? I'm not split in half. I'm 100% in both places. More like 140%, but that's another story, right? Thank God for technology. So that's what that is. We're trying to do this as an experiment in the church. This is one of maybe 3 now experiments in the whole wider church on the sharing of bishops across diocesan lines like this. And so it's a new thing. And so we really don't know how this is going to work, except that I'm going to be sort of ping-ponging back and forth. Next week I'll be visiting a church in Saginaw. And then the week after that, Advent 4, I'll be back here in South Haven. And then I'm going to close it down for the year. And then we'll start back up next year. We're going to have 2 dioceses. We're just going to play this thing out and see over a 3 to 5 year period what this looks like. Does this make sense? How does this look for us? While trying to maintain the identities of each of the dioceses. Eastern Michigan is 25 years old, the youngest diocese in the whole church. Western Michigan is 145 years old. Not the oldest, but we're up there. And so we each have different personalities and different identities. And how do we honor those and maintain those and take what is good of the both and bring them to bear in some way that will improve and strengthen the whole? Not necessarily coming together. This is not a marriage. It's sort of like seriously dating. We're going serious. This is super serious. And so we're trying to be intentional about keeping our identity while trying to figure out how to walk together to see where the Spirit is leading us. And we don't know. We don't know, but it's kind of exciting. The whole church is watching us to see how we do. And I think there's a lot that we can teach the church about how to do church in a new and rapidly changing world. Because it is. And church, as we are experiencing it, is a lot different than church was when we came into the church, 50, 60 years ago-ish. A long time ago. It's a different world. It's a different church. And the question becomes, how do we adapt to the real world, to the world as it is today? So I think that's it. What makes this possible is some shifts that we've done in our own diocese in the last couple of years. And we've been pretty successful in making some moves in the diocese that are strengthening the diocese as a whole. And there is a lot of amazing new programs and projects and ministries that are growing out of this sort of fertile soil of let's try stuff that's new. And so one of the things that we did, as you know, is we went from 5 deaneries in terms of our structure as a diocese, from 5 deaneries to 3 regions, north, central, and southern. You're in the, southern region. We need a cooler name than that, like Narnia, or Wayne's World. No? Okay. Something like that. And we've put a regional canon missioner who reports to me over each of those 3 regions. And that's really dramatically improved our capacity to address the needs of each congregation, and then it just being me and Bill Spade alone trying to address the needs of the whole diocese. From here to Petoskey, it is a lot to cover. But now we're able to do a whole lot more. And an example of that, our ability to do a whole lot more, is in Grand Rapids, we have a congregation that is made up of Sudanese. It's the Sudanese Grace Congregation of Lost Boys. Have you heard of the Lost Boys from Sudan? These are some of them are the actual Lost Boys. And two of them are ordained, a priest and a deacon. And they have the fastest growing, it is our fastest growing and one of our rapidly becoming largest churches in the church, in our diocese. There's like 100 children. 100 children, and there's 50 more that are still in Africa, right? And there's probably 50 or 60 families now, and it is the largest Sudanese congregation, Episcopal Sudanese congregation in the church. And that's not the diocese, that's the church, right? Just recently, a church in Grand Rapids called the Wallen Congregation, which had gotten down to like 6 or 7 members, decided that they couldn't continue and they didn't want to sell their property to a developer, it's in a beautiful residential area just north of Grand Rapids near the zoo. They decided they wanted to give that property away. So they gave it to the Sudanese. This is like $1 million valued property, right? And it seats like 400 people. We could probably have our convention meetings there in the undercroft of this thing. Gave it to them. If we could raise enough money to support it long term, and the standing committee, the boss in the back there, said $300,000, and they raised 260 of it in 2 weeks. This is an example of the Spirit moving in a diocese that's open to the Spirit's moving. You see what I'm saying? And because we've structured ourselves like we have, these things are popping. Over in Benton Harbor, they got in their mind, small congregation about this big, a congregation decided that they wanted to build tiny houses to support the housing needs in that unique community. So they're building tiny houses, and they're working with Habitat for Humanity and an interfaith group in Benton Harbor and St. Andrews University. I think it's St. Andrews University that's there. Is that it? Andrews? Just Andrews. I put a saint in front of everything. Andrews. It should be St. Andrews. We should change it to St. Andrews University, yeah. So here we are. We're about to change. The diocese, because of this, is about to change how Habitat's thinking. Habitat nationally is thinking about doing housing. You see how this thing works? If you get out there in the world and you see where the needs are and you go boldly to try to address them, these things can happen. We're doing really amazing things in the diocese. It's really a cool place to be right now. So that's kind of, what else, Dave? Is there anything else I need to talk about? Ann? Oh, right. Thank you. Yeah, this has been a crazy year. Lord, can I have a moment of silence? So, yeah, we moved the diocesan offices, which had been in Kalamazoo since the 1960s, right? When the cathedral was built, to Grand Rapids. I live in Grand Rapids, and I have lived in Grand Rapids since we moved here, six plus years ago now. It really is the most central location in the diocese for me to be as close to the largest number of us as possible. And so the diocesan office has now moved from Kalamazoo to the old rectory at Holy Trinity Church. Actually, it's in Wyoming, just south of Grand Rapids. And we've taken over the rectory and turned it into our offices. And what's really cool is we were spending, $35,000 a year to rent space in downtown Kalamazoo. We're now spending $18,000 a year or something like that. Or we're saving $18,000 a year in our rent, and the money's going to the church, instead of to some third-party entity, and now they can afford a full-time clergy person. So you see how that worked? That was pretty good, wasn't it? So that was a big change. That's a big sort of historic change for us as well. So all this stuff puts us in a position for us to engage with the Diocese of Eastern Michigan to see what more the Spirit has to do for us and with us, and to encourage us in new and creative ways. I'm happy to answer any questions. We can talk later. Excuse me? Oh, gosh, man, she's good. Right. I know it. She's right on it. Yeah, so next year in November, actually the end of October, we will have a joint diocesan convention in Lansing at the Convention Center in Lansing with the Diocese of Eastern Michigan. And our visitor, keynote speaker, and preacher for our service will be none other than the presiding bishop, Michael Bruce Curry. And you know, he's a pretty good preacher. He's okay. He's actually a prophet, y'all. I worked with him for 8 years. I came out of that diocese of North Carolina, and so I worked with him for a lot of years. And what you see in him is exactly what you get. He's just an amazing person. And prophets, we're talking about prophets in the gospel today, right? Who is it? Who was it who came out? John. Jiminy Christmas. John. We're talking about prophets. A prophet is somebody in my mind who can speak truth into the world without fear of what's going to come back. Right? And that's the way Michael is. Michael can just speak the truth because he is so self-differentiated and so self-possessed that he knows whatever comes back, because there's always going to be a reaction, is not about him. It's about the people who have the reaction. And so prophets are those kind of people who can stand strong and speak the truth without worrying about the consequences. So, yeah, Michael Curry will be here. John the Baptist. All right, let's do some preaching. You ready? We'll move on. So Barb and Val and Sandy and I, is Val in here? Oh, she's teaching. She left. And I know Sandy's moved down to Florida. We were hanging out in Judea, in the Judea wilderness a couple years ago, weren't we, Barb? So we were in the place that you read about today. Anybody been to the Holy Land? You been? Yeah. Some people have been. It's not what you would expect, I think. It's really, well, at least it wasn't what I expected. Jerusalem sits way up on a sort of a mountaintop-ish kind of plateau, about 4,000 or 5,000 feet above sea level. And if you go east down this mountain about 23 miles, you go through the Judean wilderness, which looks like the desert Southwest. It's not woods, it's desert. It's rocky and barren and scrubby, and there's no cover, and it just sort of goes down until you get to the Jordan River. And it's foreboding. It's not a place you want to hang out. And it's out of this place, this barren, isolated, lonely, frightening, no life, it seems, place that John, we remember his name now, comes to baptize. And when we went down to the Jordan, remember this? We went down to the Jordan River, and you come down the mountain, and you get to where it's a level plain like this, and you have to drive through a landmine field. Right? There's a road, but if you go much off of the road, it's a field as far as you can see of landmines. Right? And then you get to the river, and you get off the bus, and you get to there's a little bank that slowly sort of slopes down maybe 10 feet to the river. And on the bank are soldiers with machine guns. And not just one, it's a dozen, half a dozen. A lot of them. Yeah. And then you go down to the river. The river isn't this wide. It's maybe this wide. It's muddy, right? And on the other side, which is Jordan, right, it's the same thing. Men and women with machine guns on the other side. And this is this place where Jesus is baptized. It's crazy. It's crazy. And in the midst of landmines and machine gun carrying soldiers, hundreds of pilgrims dressed in white, y'all look good, coming to be baptized. Why would you do that? It's crazy. Why you would go through such dangerous territory to get baptized? It was profound. It was a profound experience. And what I think it says is that there's something in us, innately in us, that we are drawn to be connected with the divine. And we'll go through the wilderness. We'll go through whatever is dangerous if we can just get a glimpse of, be washed in, if only for a moment, in a relationship with that divine God. That's what I think. And I think that's a sign of hope for us. I think that's, and do we need hope? I think we need hope right now. Because, you know, the world is not an easy place to live in these days. Right? We're sort of tearing each other apart over, you know, political ideology or theological propositions or philosophical point of views or whatever it is, and we hold those as more important and valuable than the people. People are more important than what they think about things. That doesn't define who we are. What defines who we are is that we're children of God, all of us, right? And that's the most important thing. And so we need that hope in this sort of wilderness season of life that at least I find myself in this country right now. I need to know about hope. And the work that you all are doing in this community gives me hope. Right? Do you see how it works? This is why we have to do what we're doing to care for those who are the least and the last and the lost and the losers, regardless of who they voted for or who they cheer for, Michigan or Michigan State, right? Or Kentucky, right? Kentucky, right? It doesn't matter. All children of God. And that is the light that the world needs to shine bright. That's why we're lighting more candles, you see. More light is coming into the world as we get closer to Christmas. I'm going to read to you a prayer that I found this week that I shared with our staff that I think speaks to this hope, even in the wildernesses of our life, which Advent is kind of a sort of a wilderness space. Maybe we're living in sort of a wilderness space in our society, and we need people to speak the truth of hope. Y'all, here's a prayer. Better? Wilderness is the place of Moses, a place of no longer captive and not yet free, of letting go and learning new living. Wilderness is the place of Elijah, a place of silence and loneliness, of awaiting the voice of God and finding clarity. Wilderness is the place of John, a place of repenting, turning around, of taking first steps on the path of peace. Wilderness is the place of Jesus, a place of preparation, of getting ready for the reckless life of faith. We thank you, God, for the wilderness. Wilderness is our place. As we wait for the land of promise, teach us the ways of new living. Lead us to where we hear your word most clearly. Renew us and clear out the wastelands of our lives. Prepare us for life in the awareness of Christ's coming, when the desert will sing and the wilderness will blossom as the rose. It's good being with y'all. Enjoy the wilderness.